Hey, Beasties here, and welcome to week 7 of the PDPL. So week 6, I do not have a video for, and it was a pretty sad 2-0 loss in which I lost game 1 because I made a massive misplay and targeted the wrong mon, and then game 2, I was caught out of position in front of a choice banded Corviknight, and ended up not particularly going well. So this week we're hoping to turn this around. We are currently 2-4 after our 2-0 start, so definitely need to get a win and hopefully turn the season around, because if we want a chance to make playoffs, we pretty closely need to almost win entirely out. If not, we need to win 3 of our next 4 matches. So with that, here's the matchup. So this matchup is interesting, but not particularly bad. So one of the nice things about this matchup is their team is obscenely slow, and their team is incredibly focused on Trick Room. They have very few Tailwind setters, very few speed control outside of Trick Room, and so the idea is if I can set up Trick Room, or if I can prevent them from setting up Trick Room, I should be able to outspeed them indefinitely. And in addition to that, most of my mons I can invest with a lot of bulk without needing to invest in speed and still be able to outspeed, which is pretty nice. Some other things is that they do not have any fire resist, so Okrupon looks pretty good offensively. And in addition to that, they don't really have great ways to deal with a Levitate Mon that is still Terra, which is pretty nice as well. So with that, let's get into what I brought. So here's the team I brought. Starting off, we have Okrupon. Okrupon just hits everything on the team with a fire move. The only thing that resists fire is going to be some Terras, and other than that, the 2 Dragon Mons. And so we get Play Rough to hit the Dragon Mons, and also specifically to hit Terra Dragon, which is somewhat common against me. And then we have Woodhammer mainly to get the 1-hit KO onto the Ursaluna Blood Moon. I considered Stomping Tantrum instead in order to hit Dragalge, but we will, and it's really close between those two. Maybe I'll switch it, but that the idea right now is Woodhammer helps with that specifically against the Ursaluna Blood Moon specifically, even though it doesn't really hit anything else. Next up, we have Assault Vest Hydreigon. Their team is very specially leaning, and so the Assault Vest I think is going to be really important. Aircell Hydreigon resist most of their main offense. Hydrapple, Dragalge, and Ursaluna Blood Moon are their main offensive threats. And I am immune to ground and poison if I Terra. And in addition, I resist dragon and normal and grass, which are pretty much the vast majority of the offensive coverage from those 3 mons. And so Hydreigon will be able to very well defensively deal with them if I Terra Steel. And this is kind of true for all of my Levitate mons here, in which I brought 3, in which all of them are Terra Steel for that exact reason. Next up is Mimikyu. So Mimikyu is one of my 2 main ways of being able to deal with Trick Room. Mimikyu specifically can reverse Trick Room by clicking it. This Mimikyu is very specially bulky because their team is very specially leaning. We have Swords Dance to make it a little bit more offensive, and then we have Trick Room to undo the Trick Room, and Protect and Play Rough. Play Rough is perfect coverage this week, unless they Terra, because nothing on their team resists Fairy. Next up, we have Cobalion. Cobalion has coaching, mainly to boost Ogrepon's damage output, but also can hit Mimikyu and Flygon for extra damage. We have the Roar to completely prevent any Trick Room, specifically, and also deal with some setup. And it's particularly helpful if they have Mental Herb on something. We have Taunt to deal with Trick Room, but also they have a lot of potential setup mons, so Taunt is pretty useful in that aspect. And then Sacred Sword just has the offensive move. After that, and then Sugarberry in order to take an attack from Ursaluna Blood Moon. And other than that, it should take attack from pretty much anything. Next up, we have Flygon. So Flygon is pretty bulky this week. Terra Steel with Levitate, like the same reason as Hydreigon, and we have Struggle Bug to deal with the special damage. A good way to support some of the mons if I can't really hit anything. And then we have Earthquake, mainly to hit Muck, but also just generic stab damage, and then Dragon Claw, just as good neutral damage against most of the team. They do have 2 dragons, so it does actually hit a couple things for super effective. And then finally we have Rotom. Rotom is also still another pretty bulky one this week. We have Pain Split, Hydro Pump, Light Screen. So the idea with this is we have Light Clay, Light Screen. They have a lot of special attackers, so this, if we lead it, can kind of just have 8 turns of minimizing damage. Hydro Pump hits most of the team for pretty reasonable damage. Pain Split to make Rotom a little harder to kill, and then we just have the Helping Hand to help do some more damage if they have a water resist. Electric coverage is not great this week, and so that was kind of the idea with the Helping Hand. And so with that, let's get into the match. So here we are for game 1. So one of the big things we can see here is they ended up not bringing their Thwackey, which means they have no fake out support. No fake out support means that the Cobalion is the most consistent way to preventing Trick Room, because we do have the Roar, so pretty much guaranteed to prevent Trick Room. And the best partner with it is Ogerpon, which can do really good damage. We can get the coaching boost and get threat 1-hit KOs into a lot of the Mons. And then the big question is, what do we want in the back? I decided to kind of lean a little bit of Hydreigon and Flygon. I think there's a good argument that maybe Mimikyu would have been better than one of those two, but I decided to go with those two because they do have a couple of ground resist and a couple of dragon resist. So having both the dragons as offensive coverage makes sense. And so with that, let's get into the game. So they end up leading Porygon 2 in Dragalge, and I lead the Ogerpon Cobalion. So this is a pretty reasonable thing in that I can just taunt the Porygon. They reveal to get a special attack boost, which is somewhat annoying because they're likely special. And so Porygon 2 is Terra Water, and so I don't really want to try to go for the kill on it. So the play here is just going for the Stomping Tantrum and the taunt to the Porygon. There's some argument to possibly Terra because that might be able to get the extra damage to kill the Dragalge, but it's also a little bit risky in the case they are Terra Water. They might go for a Terra Blast, which would make sense. They ended up going for a Terra on turn 1 into the Terra Water Porygon, and so this means that there's good chance, it's good that I ended up not trying to go for the kill with a Ivy Cudgel. However, with the taunt, we should prevent it from setting up Trick Room, and there's almost positive that it's Eviolite. We get a Stomping Tantrum off, which does a very good chunk of damage. Definitely would have killed if I would have Terra'd or if I went for coaching. And they end up going for a Sludge Pump, killing my Ogerpon, which is really awkward for me. Because that was one of my major damage dealers, this thing. So I decided to bring out the Hydreigon. I considered the Flygon, and maybe the Flygon would be better, and maybe just switch back out into Hydreigon, go for like the Earthquake. But we went with the Hydreigon just because they have 2 special attackers in front of us. They are I think the play is to go for Terra Steel because it's going to make sure I don't really take any good damage from the Dragalge, and then go for the Snarl and the Sacred Sword to get a little bit of damage into this Porygon too. I don't know if the Snarl kills the Dragalge. Probably not, but it wouldn't be completely crazy too. So maybe I could go for the double up, but I decided to just go for the damage into the Porygon, especially because it's not going to do much damage into the Dragalge since Sacred Sword is resisted. So we Terra Steel, and this should be hard, pretty hard for them to really kill, especially with me snarling. We end up just missing out on the Dragalge because we got a crit. Without the crit, I definitely wouldn't kill with Sacred Sword, but with that crit, Sacred Sword might have been enough to kill the Dragalge. However, they are able to get a Terra Blast into my Cobalion, and they are able to get a Scald into the Cobalion as well. Not doing great damage, but definitely enough to be annoying. And so here, the Snarl just makes the most sense at killing the Dragalge here, and then we can go for Sacred Sword. There's not really much else the Cobalion can do here. I just double check to make sure that Porygon is still taunted, but we do a good chunk of damage. Porygon, we kill the Dragalge. Porygon is now at -2 special attack. Now it shouldn't be doing great damage. and they end up just going for another Terror Blast into the Cobalion, which takes it pretty well now that Porygon's at -2. And this was last turn, the Porygon with Taunt. So they bring out Muck here, and I'm a little bit concerned with the Muck, specifically because if it's an Assault Vest Muck, I really can't deal with this thing on the field, and I really need to bring out the Flygon to that. And so I have a strong desire to switch out Flygon. However, if they just go for Trick Room and Porygon, I'm in really bad shape, so I do also want to taunt it. And so I decided to make the somewhat aggressive read that Porygon is not going for a taunt here, or Trick Room, because they do know I have taunt, and bring out the Flygon because I feel like I need Flygon in order to deal with the Muck here, because I don't think I'm going to be able to deal with it with just the Hydreigon. So I go for the Snarl, which does very minimal damage to both of them. We do get Porygon down to -3 special attack. And they go for the Drain Punch, which Flygon takes okay. However, we are in a little bit of a sad position because they did just go for the Trick Room, whereas honestly, if we just taunted and if Cobalion, even if Cobalion went down, we were in a lot better position because now there's not much we can do. So here I decided to just go for max damage to try to kill the Muck. I probably can't even kill with a double up if they are Assault Vest, but I do just need to start getting some chip on it with the Earthquake and the Draco Meteor, and just hope. They end up going for a Drain Punch into the Hydreigon, which does over 50%, which is really awkward. And they go for the Recover on Porygon, too, which, as we can see, this is definitely, the issue with me going for that really aggressive read. However, luckily for me, they do reveal that they are not, in fact, the Assault Vest, which also means that I probably didn't need to make that very aggressive switch. And that was a really probably unnecessarily risky play, especially with, as we can see, Earthquake doing almost no damage to this Porygon. So they go out and bring in this Ursaluna, and I'm at -2 special attack, so I can go for the Snarl and like the Protect, or I can possibly switch out into Cobalion. I decided to just go for the Snarl and the Protect. I should be able to take any attack from this Ursaluna, and the idea is just to get some Snarls to make its damage a little bit worse. They go for the Hyper Voice, which Hydreigon takes pretty comfortably. They reveal to be Life Orb on the Ursaluna, and they go for a Terra Blast into the Hydreigon, which does a pretty good, chunk of damage, enough in which I probably don't take much else of many other attacks. However, we do get Porygon to like -4 special attack, and Ursaluna to the -1. So here I decided I want to switch out into the Cobalion to save the Hydreigon for a little bit later to get a little bit of chunk of damage since it is at -2. And I decided to go for the Struggle Bug in order to lower their special attack on their team a little bit more. And they end up going for another Hyper Voice, in which I take with both these Pokemon, which is pretty good. Ursaluna is slowly taking some damage. They just go for the Terra Blast. But at -4, Cobalion ends up taking this pretty comfortably. And we just get another Struggle Bug, putting, I think, Porygon at -5 special attack, and Ursaluna, I think, at -2. And so here's the last turn of Trick Room, and so I feel like we're not in that bad of shape. We can just protect with the Flygon and then try to get a little chunk of damage and bring in Hydreigon if I don't die. And so I do the Sacred Sword to try to kill Ursaluna, and then the Protect on the Flygon to stall at the last turn of Trick Room. And so we're not in bad shape. We're probably going to lose here, which they do in fact go for the Earth Power. And I end up, losing the Cobalion because I'm at so low HP. But this being the last turn of Trick Room, we do have some outs here. And they revealed to have Ice Beam on the Porygon too, which luckily for me, we ended up protecting, so we're not going to take that at all. So now we bring out the Hydreigon, and Hydreigon is a lot lower HP than I would like. And the big question is do I want to read an Ursaluna Protect or not? So if Ursaluna protects, then the optimal play is to double up into the Porygon with Draco Meteor. And if they don't protect, it's probably just to go for Snarl and like Earthquake. I think this is almost certainly a big misplay. I think I needed to Draco, Earthquake, try to kill one of these two mons no matter what. And the big question is, should I read the Protect or not? And instead, I kind of go for the middle ground, which is Snarl, Earthquake, which the issue with this attack is it's not going to kill either of these Pokemon, no matter what. And so I definitely am not happy with the decision I ended up making, but I definitely think I should have Dracoed one of those two, especially because if I Dracoed Porygon 2 and then protecting Ursaluna, which was a pretty obvious play, I almost certainly am able to get the kill on Porygon 2 and then probably almost certainly win. However, instead we go for the Snarl and the Earthquake, which ends up doing very minimal damage overall from on both. And Porygon's able to get a Trick Room up, which means that the game is pretty much locked up as me losing. Uh, so definitely a little bit sad. I think that this was just objectively the incorrect play. I needed to even if I didn't expect them to like Trick Room, I needed to Draco into one of the two spots just for the extra damage. Now they can kill Hydreigon even though they're both at pretty low HP. And so here I decided to just go for the Draco and the Earthquake, hoping that we can possibly kill one of these with the damage. We go for the Blood Moon into the Hydreigon, which kills Hydreigon, which would expect, even though it has a special attacks drops and I'm resisted. I'm at pretty low HP, and we also see that they go for the Recover, which in this position, pretty much there's no way I'm going to be able to 1v1 this Porygon, even though it's like -5 special attack, and we don't do nearly enough damage into the Ursaluna. So I protect. I guess this is technically suboptimal because next turn they can Blood Moon, but I don't think there's really much of a way to win this game at this point. With the 2v2 going on, especially because they have the Recover on the Porygon too. So this was a pretty tight game. I think we ended up getting massively punished for that, for the read that they weren't going to go for the Trick Room early on with the Cobalion by switching it out. I was very concerned about the Muck at that point, which I don't think it was objectively wrong play, but ended up not working out in the slightest, especially because they just doubled up into the Cobalion, or they attacked the Cobalion spot, which would have given me a possible free switch in, and they did in fact go for Trick Room. And then this one, we also had the second kind of, which was I think more objectively an incorrect play of not killing the Porygon 2 when they set up Trick Room the second time. So definitely a little bit unclean and a little bit sad of a game, but hopefully we're able to adjust and get there for game 2. So here we are for game 2. So honestly, the biggest mistake issue last game, other than a couple of misplays or questionable decisions, was honestly that I needed more damage from Ogerpon. Ogerpon just did not do didn't get any kills, died on turn 1. And that was the big issue. And so I think the same lead would make sense with Cobalion and Ogerpon. And the big question is what I want. I do think Hydreigon is still really good. Assault Vest just seems kind of like a must bring this week. And it does threaten a lot of these mons for good damage. And then the big question is, do I want the Flygon or like the Mimikyu this time? And I decide I just want to go with the Mimikyu because I do want another way to set up to reverse the Trick Room. And it does seem pretty reasonable. And so with that, let's get into the game. So they end up leading Hydrapple Porygon 2, which honestly I'm pretty fine with, in front of my Ogerpon and Cobalion. And they get a special attack boost on the download, as we'd expect. And so here, I definitely want to just taunt the Porygon with the Cobalion. The big question is do I want to go offensive into the Hydrapple or not? One of the big issues with the Hydrapple is that we're not going to be able to kill it unless we with Play Rough, unless we Terra or get a coaching boost. And obviously, we don't really want to get a coaching boost on turn 1 because we want to taunt with the Cobalion to prevent Trick Room. And so I decided to just play a little defensive, go for the Spiky Shield, so I don't take any attacks into the Ogre spawn spot and get the taunt into the Porygon, preventing it from going for Trick Room. So we Spiky Shield and we get the taunt off and preventing Porygon from doing any Trick Room shenanigans. And the Hydrapple ends up just going for Earth Power into Cobalion, which shouldn't do much damage because I am pretty bulky and have the Shuka Berry. And they, in fact, did go for Trick Room. So didn't need to go for the Protect that turn, technically, but it was pretty good. So here I'm kind of want to just kill the Hydrapple, and I think the cleanest way to do that and most consistent is to go for a Coaching Terra Ivy Cudgel. This is a guaranteed KO into Hydrapple if it doesn't Terra. However, they are Terra Dragon, which means there's a chance I won't be able to kill it if they do Terra. However, I think it's really unlikely that they're going to Terra, and so that's why I kind of just think this is a pretty reasonable attack. There's not much on the field that really encourages them to Terra, and so we go for the Terra. And with the Ogerpon Terra, we get the attack boost. Now we're at +1 attack, and Cobalion is faster, and we get the coaching off, which gets the Ogerpon up to +2 attack. And in addition to that, I get the fire damage boost because I Terra fired. And so this is a very massive damage, and this is guaranteed one hit KO if even without the crit, but we did get a crit, getting a very clean one hit KO. Definitely don't think they were particularly expecting that. And I think they ended up going for the hard read that I was possibly going to switch into something like Hydreigon or Flatbull because that Ice Beam didn't super, do pretty much anything. It's like a ball in spot and would have been a lot more relevant to the, Ogre Pond spot. So they bring out the Ursaluna. And so here, I think there's a good chance they're going to Terra and Terra Blast into the Ogre Pond. So I just go for a Protect because, like I said, I think they're going to Terra Water, Terra Blast into the Ogre Pond and go for Protect and Ursaluna. So I just want to go for the Protect to prevent the Terra Blast and then go for the Coaching. I don't have a Grass move. I ended up switching the Grass move out for the Ground move, so I can't really kill a Terra Water Porygon, which they do in fact Terra as I expected. And if they go for a Protect on the Ursaluna like I expected, this is going to be a pretty perfect turn because we're going to get an attack boost and defense boost on the Ogre Pond while not taking any damage. And they do in fact protect the Ursaluna perfectly, doing what I wanted to. Get the attack boost, so now I'm at +3 attack and +2 defense, making Ogerpon a threat to kill pretty much everything in one hit other than the Porygon. And as expected, they do go for the Terra Blast into the Ogerpon, meaning that I get a pretty clean, pretty much perfect turn. So here, I don't have a way to kill the Porygon, so I'm just going to go for the one-shot in Ursaluna. They don't have any switch-ins for a fire move like that, and they already Terra'd, so this is a guaranteed one-hit KO into that spot. And they end up switching out the Porygon, which is perfect for me, because in this situation, I'm going to get a free kill and a free taunt onto the Muck. And, we taunt the Muck. We get a +3 Ivy Cudgel, plus the Terror boosted Ivy Cudgel, which is a guaranteed one hit KO onto Ursaluna, no matter how bulky they are. And so that was pretty nice turn there. And I understand their reason to switch out because they expected maybe a grass move to go into the Porygon, but because they switch out, this was actually completely optimal for me. So here I just go for Spike Shield. I don't know if that was completely relevant. I'm going for the Taunt and Porygon, which is definitely the correct play. But there's a chance they just go for Trick Room, and Ogre and Muck cannot protect, so I get a free kill onto that Ivy Cudgel spot. So they end up going for a Terra Blast instead. So it's not like it was completely a worthless Spiky Shield, but like I said, we next turn is going to be the same turn, and all we do is now have a Protect off in that spot. So Ivy Cudgel is completely free into the Muck because Muck is taunted, and so Ivy Cudgel is guaranteed kill. And so here the big question is do we want to switch out or just go for a Sacred Sword? We just go for the Sacred Sword, do a little damage into the Porygon too. So Sacred Sword comes out, does very little damage, not particularly helpful against the Porygon. We get the Ivy Cudgel, which is going to do enough for a one-hit KO, as we would expect at +3. Muck is not super defensively bulky; it's very especially bulky though. And they go for a Terra Blast, which is almost certainly going to the Ogre Pond, and I expect it to kill. It ends up actually not getting the kill, which is pretty big. Nice damage calc to do. I believe Ivy Cudgel, because I have Terra, does the most damage, and I believe that Coaching is going to do enough benefits to let's say more damage than Sacred Sword. So we get Ogerpon up to +4. Hopefully we can get the kill, but I'm not completely convinced because Porygon is really bulky, and as we see, we do miss out on the kill, and they're able to kill Ogerpon with the Terra Blast. So Ogerpon ended up getting 3 kills this game, which is really big. And definitely, like I mentioned, one of the biggest issues in I think game 1 was just Ogerpon not doing anything. It dealt a pretty good chunk of damage, but to one Pokemon. But I really needed, because it's one of my 2 offensive threats this week, really needed it to get a a good kill and then good damage on a second mon, honestly, in game one. And this game, we were able to get 3 clean kills, and now we can just go in, hit the Dark Pulse and the Sacred Sword, and get a very easy win here. And Kabalion ends up missing. Hydrate Gun gets the kill, and we get game 2 pretty well with a 3-0 win. So I think it went well. I don't know how they're going to adjust, and hopefully we can figure out a way to kind of make this go as smoothly as we did last game, or this game, for game 3. And so let's get to game 3. Here we are for game 3, and so game 2 went really well, and we honestly didn't even really make too many adjustments other than playing a little bit more defensively with Ogerpon. And so the big question is there really any reason to switch out the lead? We have the same lead game 2 and game 1, and I feel like I had the ability to win both games. I'm considering bringing Rotom so we can get a light screen up early. However, I feel like just the issue is if I bring Rotom, I really want to bring Kabalion as a way to prevent Trick Room, and that's a really passive lead. So a good way to deal with that passivity is to lead Ogerpon. And so if I'm leading Ogerpon and Kabalion, makes sense. And so we kind of just have the same 4 as we did last game. Like I said, like the issue with the Rotom lead is I really just want more damage output next to it, and the issue I can't do that and prevent Trick Room at the same time. And so same lead, same 4, and we're hoping that the run back will get us there. So they end up leading Muck Hydrapple into my Kabalion Ogerpon, so they do not threaten Trick Room at all this time. So we have a pretty free, Terra, Ivy Cudgel coaching to kill either of these mons. However, I just want to go pretty defensive with the Ogerpon turn 1, see what they do, bait out a Protect, bait out a Terra, and see what happens. So we go for the Spiky Shield, and we get the coaching off into the Ogerpon, putting it at +1 attack, +1 defense, and we are definitely just hoping that they attack into it. They end up going for the Drain Punch Kabalion, which I take okay, and they end up going for an Earth Power as well. So they definitely completely read that Protect. So just the coaching attack would have been the better play, would have gotten a one-hit KO on turn 1 and taking no damage from Ogerpon, but I think I'm pretty fine with playing a little bit defensively. So here I considered going for killing the Muck, but honestly, I think that's just not a great play because if I go for a coaching again, I'm at +2 defense, so I should be able to take an attack from Muck pretty well. And so if I'm going to take if I'm at +2 defense, I'm taking attack from Muck quite well. So I decided to go for the kill onto the Hydrapple instead, and I'm going to read that they're going to Terra Dragon because I went for the Ivy Cudgel last time, and so I go for the Terra in order to take a poison move from Muck a little bit better, get the coaching to get up to +2 defense, so I take an attack from Muck even better, and then go for the play rough, reading the Terra Dragon on the Hydrapple, because if it doesn't Terra, I just have Ivy Cudgel as a guaranteed kill. But if they do Terra, I cannot kill with Ivy Cudgel because they lose their grass typing. And we get up to in this case, +2 defense or attack, and then we get the coaching off to +3. However, they do in fact Terra the Hydrapple into Terra Dragon as we expected, which means this play rough was objectively the correct call, and we just need to hit a 90% accurate move, which is quite stressful because we do get the coaching. Like I said, we're at +2 defense, +3 attack. This is a guaranteed kill into the Hydrapple if I connect it. We just need to connect, and we do. And Hydrapple goes down, and we are in pretty good shape. Like I said, we didn't need a Terra in order to get this kill with Play Rough. However, the Terra was mainly a defensive Terra to take a poison move a little bit better, which in fact they do go for a poison move, and I do take it pretty well. Sadly, I get poisoned with Poison Touch, which means I'm a little bit on a clock. However, I still feel like I'm in pretty reasonable shape because at +3 attack, I should be, and the fact that they cannot Terra, Ivy Cudgel will one-shot every single Pokemon on their team. So they bring out Ursaluna. I think it's really obvious that they're probably just going to protect the Ursaluna. However, I cannot go for that. That's too risky of a play for me because Ursaluna can one-shot the Ogerpon since I Terra'd. They go for the Protect. I expected that 100%. We get the Taunt off into Muck so that they can't Protect later. Like I said, I could have gone for the big read, but I do not want to risk it because I feel like I'm in a really commanding position. My Ogerpon is completely safe. It's not going to die this turn, and I have the ability to kill Ursaluna next turn. They go for the Drain Punch Kabalion, which does a pretty good chunk of damage, and I take a little bit of poison damage. But like I said, I could have made this read. I think it was correct not to, because now we get the clean kill on Ursaluna, and I decided to just go for a switch out into the Mimikyu. The reason behind this is, um, if they go for fighting move, it's a free switch and in addition, Cobalian's not doing much right now, since Ogerpon already one shots everything on their team. So we run out the Mimikyu. We get the Ivy Cudgel off into the Ursaluna, which is a one-hit KO, and we just hope they go for the Drain Punch into the Mimikyu for this to be a perfect turn. They end up going for a Poison Jab into the Ogerpon instead, which does okay damage, but not enough in which I'm going to die. And because Muck is taunted, Ogerpon has got a guaranteed kill next turn into the Muck spot, putting us into a 4-0 or 4-1 lead. So here, the obvious play is just kill the Muck. Obviously I could kill the Porygon too, Porygon instead. However, I think it's just pretty safe to do that, and I go for the Swords Dance to kill extra damage on the Mimikyu. This gets a kill. I think maybe it was optimal to just kill the Porygon instead, but I just went for the Muck because I knew it was taunted. I'm like, maybe Porygon has Protect, and I was thinking about it. Porygon revealed their entire set. I know it didn't have Protect, but I was like, I don't want to throw. They end up going for Ice Beam into Mimikyu instead of Ogerpon, which means that Ogerpon's actually going to survive this turn because I have enough HP in which Poison doesn't kill me, which means that Ogerpon's actually going to be able to get all 4 kills this game. So I decided to go for the Ivy Cudgel, which is pretty much guaranteed one-hit KO onto the Porygon, and I just go for another Swords Dance just in case they do have Protect, and I just completely am misremembering. They do not click Protect, as we know because they already did. We get the crit, which gets 1 KO. The crit was definitely not necessary, but with that, we are able to win Game 2 with a 4-0 win. So definitely happy to get our losing streak out of there. Starting off 2-0, then getting a 4-game losing streak was really sad. This was a really nice win. I think it was a very favorable matchup for me because I have lots of ways to ruin the Trick Room. I have a lot of bulky, really offensive Mons. And so definitely a little sad that I lost game 1 because I feel like I was in a very good position to be able to win. But I'm pretty happy with the win. And Ogerpon definitely had one of its best performance of the season, getting 7 kills. Hopefully this is our turnaround to finish the season strong and possibly get a playoff push, but we'll see. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time.